All right, so A Christmas Carol. Great story, right? The regular tale is very simple. Scrooge is a greedy man, hates Christmas, hates other people, has no generosity. He's terrified by his dead business partner, Jacob Marley. He's visited by three spirits. He sees the implications of his actions and what waits for him, a lonely, miserable, forgotten death, changes his ways. Simple story, powerful story. There's a reason it's been adapted so many times. But what's really wrong with Scrooge? Why is he so greedy? Why is he this way? Here's why, and it's very subtle and very simple. Actually, it's not even that subtle. It is because Scrooge was terrified of being alone. So terrified, he took preemptive action and decided to make himself lonely first. Look at the initial description of Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. He was a tight-fisted, hand-at-the-grindstone Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire, secretive, self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. We're then told this: external heat and cold had no influence on Scrooge, no warmth could warm, nor winter rather chill him. Foul weather didn't know where to have him. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw 1 degree at Christmas. This guy's internally cold. He's empty. He's dark. He's secretive and solitary. And even more telling, nobody ever stopped him in the street to say with gladsome looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? When will you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what it was o'clock. No man or woman ever once in all his life inquired the way to such and such a place of Scrooge. But what did Scrooge care? 'Twas the very thing he liked. To edge his way along the crowded paths of life, wanting all human sympathy, to keep his distance. He doesn't want anything to do with anybody. In fact, after this description, his nephew comes, his only family, invites him to Christmas dinner. Scrooge tells him, "I'll see you in hell first," or "I'll see myself in hell first." It's unclear from the text. But he'd rather be in hell, or rather have his nephew go to hell, one or the other, right? Then it gets even more telling. These gentlemen come to collect money for the poor. Scrooge says he won't give them nothing. They think that he means he'll be anonymous, so they say, "You wish to be anonymous?" And he says, "I wish to be left alone." "But you asked me what I wish, gentlemen. That is my answer. I do not make merry myself at Christmas." And he goes on from there. "I wish to be left alone." Then he goes home. He's very alone. His home is dark. His home is cold. His home is unkept. It's a big, huge home, and it's just Scrooge in there. This is a lonely, unloved man, Ebenezer Scrooge. And he's nobody. And he clings to money because he thinks money won't leave him and money won't abandon him. And with money, he has power and can affect things without any real relationships with people. Then, of course, he meets the spirits, goes to Christmas past, shows him this goes back to his childhood. His father didn't seem to love him, abandoned him in his boarding school. Only his sister showed him any love, compassion, and care. She died as a young woman. He has a fiancée. She leaves him because he's greedy, as we know. But she says, here's why you're greedy. You fear the world too much. And he affirms this. You should fear the world. It's scary. This dialogue is not usually replicated in most versions, but that's what it says. And then after that, after the breakup scene, which is in most adaptations of A Christmas Carol, not covered, you also get this. You get Belle you get a vision of Belle, Scrooge seeing Belle with her kids, her grandkids, her husband, and you see the life that he missed, the family life that he missed out on because of his fears that drove him to money. That terrifies him. That ends his time with the ghost of Christmas past. And then, of course, he sees the effects of his greed and his life now on those around him in the present. But in the ghost of Christmas future, he sees the whole thing, right? He is a lonely, miserable man, and he will die completely unwept and uncared for. Nobody cares that he's dead. Except for one family that's happy because now they don't have to pay their debt to him because he's a merciless creditor. But nobody cares, right, that this guy is gone. No one. Right? And in fact, there's a scene that I've seen in few film versions and never quite adequately, In most versions, he goes to the grave and he sees his lonely, abandoned grave, which is great, and that's what finally changes him. But a little before that in the book, you get this. And it's quite a powerful scene that really tells you Scrooge's problem. This is page 69 here. He goes into a room, and there's a dead man in that room. And it's so dark he can't quite figure it out. It's his own dead body in the future, but he doesn't quite realize it. The room was very dark, too dark to be observed with any accuracy, though Scrooge glanced around it in obedience to his secret impulse, anxious to know what kind of room it was. A pale light rising in the outer air fell straight upon the bed, and on it, plundered, bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of this man. The man they were just seen had his stuff all stolen, and being, stolen, means being illegally trafficked, his clothing, his other items he owns, in a previous scene. And the spirit wants him to take the sheet off. He can't do it. And so after that, he moves on and he sees other things, right? Eventually goes to his grave. But that scene, this all alone, everything's stolen, no one cares. He wished to be left alone, he got it. So that's what transforms Scrooge. Right? He realizes finally the total ramifications of his refusal to engage with others and to be this lonely person. Scrooge, what's the story? What really is the problem with Scrooge? The real problem with Scrooge? Here it is. He was scared of people. He was scared of being hurt. So preemptively, he decided to remain isolated, secretive, solitary, alone. But this caused him to be profoundly lonely and profoundly miserable. And only when he fully realizes this does he become a kind, generous, giving, loving person. Becomes, as Dickens says, as good a man, as good a master, as good a friend, as a good old city ever knew. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. So there you are. That's the Christmas Carol.